All right, hello everybody. Niab, a day or two before Gaiden comes out here, I'm just going to discuss stuff and kind of pace around because that actually just helps with going through my thoughts and everything. And also, of course, apologies that the camera's like this. It's just easier to hold, right? I get the whole idea of holding it the other way. It's just a pain in the ass to hold and pace around. So we're going to do it this way. This is actually the first time you can see the Godzilla stuff for once. That's interesting. Anyways, besides that, let's talk about Yakuza. So, or rather, the Like a Dragon series. I have a few things that I want to mention overall here, and that's the, thoughts I have about Seven and the other games in the series, like in comparison to Seven. Kiryu, in terms of involvement of both games. Gaiden, and 8, right? And I'm going to talk about my expectations and general thoughts. This is going to be a very simple section. It's also going to be uploaded on the second channel before anything else happens, right? So this might be confusing to some people who might just stumble onto there and go, wait, why is this video here? Right. But this is just a general thing that we're going to put for the main part, right? And you're free to skip it if you feel like it. Anyways, let's talk about 7 and 8, right? So, 7. Uh, this game, like a Dragon 7, or Like a New Dragon, whatever title we want to use, is a game I absolutely love. It has a fantastic story. Despite changing the gameplay style, it is really damn good. There is a lot that I love about that game, right? I have a few complaints on occasion, like grinding can be a pain in the ass, and hard mode feels a little bit too hard. Like you have to really grind out every fucking job and all that sort of shit to the point that the stats are the max, so then you're good. At least I've found it to be that way, right? I've still yet to complete it. It's one of the games that I have not completed legend mode on. It's just like, yeah, that. And I'm trying to even remember what other games there are. I think 0, 4, and free. 4 and free, I had the problem of I didn't play them on hard, and you're supposed to play them on hard because then you get legend difficulty. You essentially get the difficulty after, right? So I was supposed to play it on hard, and I didn't. And that's on me, I guess, for not doing the research on that. But those are pretty much the only games I haven't completed on legend. Everything else, I have, but 7's included in there, and that's a bit difficult. But overall, I love 7 a lot, right? Even in comparison to like previous Yakuza games, I love it a lot. And I am a big lover of 5, right? I love 5 story a lot. I love 5 gameplay, its characters, all this sort of shit. There's a lot there that I enjoy, and especially 5's ending. And that's something we'll bring up in a moment, but I love 5 a lot, but 7 was even better to me, right? And it had me excited for the next installment, which is why I was excited when, 8 was in development and we got the trailers and stuff like that. It was great, right? It was great to get all this. So, moving from that, let's talk about one of the points of, 7 and soon to be Gaiden and 8, Kiryu. So, here's the thing. I like the idea of Kiryu making an appearance in 7, right? I like the idea of all of these like classic characters making an appearance there and proper story moments with them and everything that leads into shit. I like that a lot. Thing is, there are certain ways of going about it, right? Kiryu's, I'm not sure how I feel. And once again, this is something I'll also bring up in a moment because I think this has an important message about 8. But Kiryu in 7, I don't know how I feel. Because if we talk about 5, right, like what I was saying about Five's ending is very, like, it tugs on the heart, right? It is, ooh, it is tough to go through. Every time I go through it, like I watch somebody play it or something like that, or I just watch it myself, it is tough. It is a tough ending to watch because it's like, fuck. And the same goes for 6, right? 6 also has that sort of ending, but 6 gives the definitive, this is it, right? That's it for Kiryu. So then he gets involved in 7, right? And I don't mind that. I just have some problems with it. And it's mainly the thing of it has no building and he doesn't do much, right? I'm not saying he has to do a lot because at that point he's not the main character anymore, but it feels like this very big, I almost want to say like cop out to just shove him in there and be like, look, Kiryu. And it's like, well, that's interesting, but I don't really think that works that well, right? Because it kind of just feels like he's there. It doesn't feel like there's this big building to this moment that we've been expecting him. Like, he shows up as a bodyguard. We don't even know he's there until he shows up as a bodyguard, and then you see him for bits and pieces of the chapters, and that's about it, right? You don't see him again. So I kind of have this problem of he's in 7 and he doesn't do much, and it kind of feels like he's just there to be there, and it's disappointing, right? I can't lie, it's disappointing, especially after 5 and 6's ending. He deserved better, right? He deserved something if he was going to make it back into the story, because with how those stories were, that was it. He was like, he was putting down his coat, and that's it, right? He's essentially a retired man now. So I had problems with that, right? And I also had the problem of, okay, if this is going to be him passing the torch to Ichiban, it doesn't feel like that. We will get to that in a moment. But if it's going to be him passing the torch, it really doesn't feel like it. He kind of just shows up, he disappears, that's it. Cool. Thanks, Kiryu. Thanks for showing up, right? With that said, let's move on to the 2 new entries that are coming out, right? First of all, Gaiden. This is what I was hoping for, right? This, I'm going to be real. I feel this should have been released before 7. I know this wasn't in development or anything like that, like before 7, but it should have been. Because this feels like an actual, like from the trailers and what I can tell, this feels like an actual, here's what happened to Kiryu, right? Here's what led to this point of him being in 7, and that works really well, right? Going off some of the trailer details, it feels like, okay, there's some shit going on here, right? Hell, they even list it on the actual, like, cover for it, essentially. They put the 7 beside it, right? So this implies, of course, this is, like, for 7, this is Like a Dragon 7, but this is the Kiryu side of things, right? This is his stuff that he was going through before he showed up there. So I don't know, it's interesting to me, right? That's what I'm hoping for, right? Because the trailer is also kind of vague, I'm going to say, to a certain degree, because the end of the trailer that I remember seeing, they show like, oh, Kiryu's going to travel somewhere, but we don't know if that's like, trying to remember what Ijin show, I believe, or it's going to be like Hawaii or whatever name they're going to come up with for it, because they do that a lot, right? They change up the names a lot and everything. So I don't know if they're changing like the name for that or anything like that. I think it's Hawaii. I don't know. I don't actually fully remember where the location is. It could be fucking Hawaii. It could be Los Angeles. It could be fucking who knows where. Ichiban going to Chicago, some shit. No. Um, but yeah, like I'm curious to see what Gaiden's about, right? And I will see soon, of course. But this is like an interesting little thing to me of like, okay, is this gonna go over the stuff with Kiryu? And if it does, that actually makes 7 better to me, because that's building on 7, right? I know some people wouldn't view it in that manner because like, oh, it's a separate entry, so it doesn't really build on something else. And I mean, shit, when it comes to certain things I've reviewed before, like a certain series that I have a lot of videos on the channel, I have occasionally counted things separate, but this is something where I think, well, this is telling Kiryu's side of the story, so I think it's important to count it in there, right? Assuming that is what it is. Because if it's counting his story for 8, or like before 8, then I think that moves more so towards 8, and it doesn't move towards 7, which still creates the problem, like I said. But we'll see, right? That's something I will see very soon. All I'll need is a day or two. So, 8. Let me talk about 8. Actually, let me briefly speak about this Gaiden a little bit more. I am excited. We are getting, action gameplay in there. I'm curious on what the fuck, how it even works, because Kiryu's fucking Spider-Man. He's grappling around. He's grabbing people, slinging them around. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I have no clue what's going on here. Characters there look really interesting. I like the flashy appearance a lot of them have. It's very vibrant and cool looking, right? And it actually makes it hard to distinguish a little bit, who might be an antagonist and who might be like helping Kiryu out, thanks to that and everything. I think it's cool. I like that. Like I said, I'm still very curious on what the fuck this Spider-Man shit is. It's weird. Anyways, let's also talk about 8, of course, because this is the big one to me. So I've been very excited about 8. And just going off the trailer, there's so much to speak about. Like, holy shit. Ichiban trying to find his mother, right? Which is this huge thing. And it's like, oh, she's not dead. She's alive. He's going to go find her. And then there's a fucking VTuber antagonist, which I'm not going to make a comment, but I'm just going to mention I feel like I know what that was supposed to be, right? Rather like what it would have been. I'm not even huge into the VTuber scene at all or anything like that, but I do know some things. I feel like I know what that was going to be. If, but anyways, um, so yeah, there's a VTuber antagonist there, right? And it's like, well, okay, that's interesting, right? That they are just outing this stuff, like in terms of information and all this shit, to the world, which is a really unique way of handling that, right? Because some people might just see this trend and go, fuck it, we can put that trend in our game, and like all this sort of shit. But they are taking the idea of like, VTubers, for example, and using them to such an interesting advantage where it's like, no, this is a good plot point because they would garner a lot of attention, right? They would actually get a lot of views. So therefore, if they're, outing all this information, that's really good because that means like, oh, they are the like, source for a lot of this shit being known, right? Like one of the things they have in the trailer is the VTuber mentioning, oh yeah, like, Kiryu Kazuma is alive. So it's like, okay, so the whole fucking world now, and like, they all know now, right? Because this person with a shit ton of like, viewers and everything just spoke about that, which has me like wondering the fuck's going on in the orphanage, right? Imagine the orphanage, they turn on the TV or some shit, or like one of them has like a computer, turn it on, and they just see, huh? It's like it's funny to think about in a way, but it's also like, fuck, what's that? Like, what's that gonna mean then? Um, so there's already those two things, which is interesting, and then Ichiban trying to get more people to trust him, from what I can tell. Danny Trejo's in there, wild, right? It is wild to think that, like, I mean, it makes sense because it's fucking. This is a popular ass series at this point. Like, if I'm gonna be real, I think this series has overtaken Sonic to a certain degree, right? I'm a Sonic fan, right? I enjoy Sonic games. I'm more of a relaxed one at this point, way more relaxed. But, I enjoy the series a lot. That said, I don't know if this is even their main area anymore, because Like a Dragon does so fucking well for them that it's like, dude, it might just be that, right? Sonic is obviously their poster boy and everything, but it's like, fuck, it could be Like a Dragon that's doing better. I don't know. I'd have to look at a fuck ton of sales stuff, and I don't think I can do that. And I'm possibly not even good enough with the math to properly calculate everything that needs to be in there. But basically, you go back to what I'm saying, right? We got a lot of interesting characters here that like they showed off with the trailer, and like I said, like Danny Trejo, a whole bunch of. It's interesting, right? We got this dude with an overcoat who looks like he hasn't slept in ages, but he seems cool and he's after Kiryu in a way because it's like, oh well, like the head of the Dragon of Dojima, I'll have quite the reputation, right, if I can take that, right? And it's this whole thing. Like, I'm also curious about, how the naked scene is handled, like Ichiban naked at the beach, and how he goes from there. Essentially, I mean, I assume he gets arrested going off of the trailer, but like, I'm curious on how everything plays out. And then obviously we have Kiryu in there, and Kiryu is probably the biggest thing I want to talk about. There's also Joe. I actually should have mentioned Joe's in there. He's back. He's doing some shit. He might be like the villain or one of the villains because the way they're setting him up, it seems like he is. And it's like, fuck, dude, this guy is just actual pure evil, right? Like, this man has not stopped being a piece of shit at any point in time. But, anyways, so we have Kiryu in there, right? This is the one I want to focus on. We have Kiryu in there. And there's a lot to speak about with Kiryu, right? He has this, new haircut, all this sort of stuff, probably to just lay low, right? But part of it is the fact that there's two things. One, like, this is very clearly going to be Kiryu passing the torch, right? There is very clear just scenes that are in the trailer alone that show this is going to be Kiryu passing the torch, which, I'm interested to see. I'm curious to see how they handle that. But there's also the big one of mentioning that, oh yeah, Kiryu has cancer. And at this point, it's like he's probably not going to last like very long. And especially the description of the trailer lists it as he's in his twilight years. So it's like, oh fuck, he's going to die by the end of this game. He's either dead by the end of this game or like the game after. But probably this game. So that is a heavy pill to swallow, right? Especially after two games where it was like implied that he was gonna die, right? And then it's like, oh no, he's fine. He's just gotta go away for now, and everything. And then it's like, oh yeah, he's actually gonna die. And then like we see Majima and all of them reacting to him, which is another thing of why I kind of wish Kiryu wasn't in 7. I'm gonna be real, right? Is Majima and all of them seeing him, they're just like, oh man, even the Dragon of Dojima can like get old and everything. It's like, this would have been so cool if they didn't see him before, right? If he wasn't just there in 7 as a bodyguard and they were like, holy shit, it's him. Like, it would have been way better if he shows up there, like, his last, you know, few years, few months, whatever, just saying hi to some old friends. Like, shit, that would have been cool as hell. I actually would have liked that way more, and that's why I kind of wish he didn't show up in 7 like the way he did, right? Or if he's going to show up, don't have him show up there. But 8's story looks fantastic. I'm going to be real, right? It is only like, I don't even know, it's like a 7-minute trailer or something like that. But, like, and it still show enough, but too little to actually spoil you. I mean, they have some spoiler stuff in there, obviously, like cancer stuff and everything. But, like, overall, it's a very simple trailer, and yet it intrigues me a lot for what's going to happen. I'm actually expecting this game might be longer than every previous Like a Dragon game, right? I'm expecting it might be longer than 0. It might be longer than 5. Maybe not 5. I don't know. 5 is a long game, but like it might be longer than 5. I expect 8 to be a long game, right? And I'm fine if it isn't. It's just this thing of the way they're setting it up. It seems like this is going to take a while to actually finish. So I'm excited, and 8 looks fantastic, right? I love the gameplay system. I love that Kiryu has an action mode where he can, just brawl it out properly. That's awesome. I am loving how the minigames look, right? I haven't always played the Like a Dragon minigames, but sometimes I have, right? I sometimes just dabble in them a little bit because most of the time I'm having fun with the combat or side stories or all this sort of shit. So it's rare that I do properly dabble with the minigames. And at some point, I probably will focus on them more so. But 8 looks great with its minigames. Like, I actually like how they look a lot, and I'm very, excited to get to play them. I think when I actually get around to playing 8 and I'm streaming it and everything, I think I will do like a lot of the sub stories and mini games and all that, which I didn't do when I was doing the marathon. But to be fair, this is like a singular entry sort of thing, right? This is okay, we are just playing this game and then we're playing 8, so we might as well make the most of it, right? And 8 we still have to wait like 2 months on, right? So I mean, if I'm getting close, I'll obviously focus on the story more so, but I think by that time I will be done, right? So yeah, overall, I'm very excited about 8. I'm very excited about Gaiden. I hope both games fix a lot of the issues that I had with 7 and stuff like that. And some of that can't be fixed, obviously, but I'm hoping that some of it is properly fixed. And this feels like a good send off for Kiryu. Anyways, yeah, I'm done.